Welcome to Karma Chronicles. Please like the video and subscribe. Let's begin.
I stopped just short of knocking. Roy's voice came through the cracked door of the garage's back office, low and sharp. She's out. That's final. The trust, the shop, she gets nothing. I froze. My hand was still half raised, hovering like an idiot. Then I heard Tessa. Or, more like I didn't. She was in there too. I could hear her breathing. She didn't say a damn word. Roy kept talking like I didn't even exist. She doesn't have the mindset for it. You do. You've earned this. Janet agrees. No more split loyalties. Tessa didn't argue, didn't push back, didn't even sound surprised. And then came the part that almost made me laugh. Except it hit too hard. Janet, my mom, was humming. Somewhere in the background, her light, happy little tune floated through like a twisted lullaby. That's when it clicked. They planned this. They'd been planning this. I took 2 steps back, real slow. My heart was thumping so hard I thought it might give me away. I slipped down the hall, past the rusted-out toolbox, past the cracked calendar still stuck on June. They didn't even pause. Roy kept talking like I was already gone. Upstairs, I didn't waste a second. I locked my bedroom door, yanked my desk drawer open, and pulled out everything. My checkbook, social security card, spare debit card, even the manila folder with the title to my car. I grabbed my laptop and logged in fast. I'd opened a separate account months ago when Roy started getting too curious about my money, just in case. I dumped every dollar from my main savings into it and changed every password I had. Then I shut my laptop, slid the lockbox under my bed, and sat on the edge of the mattress, fists clenched. This wasn't just about money. They were cutting me out of my grandmother's legacy, of the shop, the trust, the family name. And Tessa, she just let them. I didn't sleep that night. Just lay there staring at the ceiling, thinking about every moment I should have seen this coming. The group camping trip last fall, Tessa had posted a bunch of pictures on Instagram, Roy smiling with his stupid fishing hat, Janet flipping burgers, Tessa posing by the lake with a s'more. Everyone there but me. They told me it was canceled. Then the 4th of July BBQ, Tessa in the center of every photo, holding the sparkler, standing next to Roy at the grill like she belonged there. No sign of me. Not even in the background. I was literally the one who bought the damn ribs. And somehow, I was cropped out of every shot. And a couple months ago, Grandma May's trust was supposed to hit its final stage. I remembered it clearly. She told me over breakfast. When it matures, you'll get everything laid out in black and white. No confusion, but no envelope ever came. No phone call from the lawyer. I sat up in bed and grabbed my phone. It was just after 6, but I couldn't take it anymore. I needed to see something, anything, that still felt like her. Grandma's sewing room hadn't been touched since she passed. Janet called it too sentimental, but I knew what that really meant. Out of sight, out of the way. I crept downstairs. The floor creaked under my heel as I passed the living room, but no one stirred. The hallway smelled like dust and lemon cleaner, like it always did. I opened the door to the sewing room and stood there for a second, letting it hit me. Her rocker was still angled toward the window. Pins stuck out of the pincushion like little frozen fireworks. I crossed the room and knelt by the quilt drawer. Something about it pulled at me. She always kept her favorite fabrics there, the ones she never let anyone touch. When I pulled the drawer out, something was taped to the bottom. A small envelope, yellowed edges, my name on the front in her handwriting. I peeled the tape back carefully and opened it. Inside was a folded sheet of paper, a tarnished brass key, and a note card that said, Red Elm Storage. Unit 12. B. I felt my stomach drop. Back upstairs, I shut my bedroom door, locked it, and dumped the contents onto the bed. Tucked inside the folded sheet was another envelope, heavier, legal-sized. I opened it, hands shaking. It was a will amendment, notarized, dated 6 weeks before she died. In it, she stated clear as day, I was to receive majority control of May's Motorworks and the family trust. Tessa's name wasn't even listed. There was also a small flash drive. I popped it into my laptop and waited. The screen lit up with just one audio file. I clicked play. Grandma's voice came through, raspy but steady. If you're hearing this, something's gone wrong. I didn't trust Roy. Not with the business, not with your future. I saw how Janet looked the other way. How Tessa smiled too much when she thought no one was watching. They're going to turn on you. It won't be loud or fast. It'll happen piece by piece like rust. I leaned in, every part of me locked in on her voice. I've left the proof. I've left the power. Use it when you need to, not before. And don't let them take what's yours. The file ended. Silence filled the room. I picked up the envelope again, read over the amendment. It was solid. Signed. Witnessed. Stamped by the bank. Then I opened the handwritten note folded underneath. They'll turn on you? Take what's yours. I stared at those 6 words until they burned. The smell of burnt eggs and over-buttered toast hit me before I even stepped into the kitchen. Roy was hunched over a stack of invoices, pencil in his mouth like he was too focused to chew. Tessa leaned against the counter, swirling coffee like she was starring in her own little morning show. Janet had her back to me, flipping eggs in the skillet, humming the same damn tune from the garage. None of them looked up when I walked in. I sat down at the table, opened the manila envelope, and dropped the will amendment between Roy and Tessa like it was a napkin. The slap of paper on wood cut right through the room. "What's this?" Roy asked, not even looking at me yet. Tessa peered at it, eyes narrowing. "Are you serious with this?" Janet didn't turn around. "If you're starting drama before breakfast, it's Grandma's will," I said, calm. "The real one." The amendment, signed 6 weeks before she died, Roy scoffed. "You found some old paperwork and now you think it's notarized," I cut in, "by the bank manager at First Colonial and witnessed by her bridge partner, Lois Harding. She wrote her name and phone number on the back. Want me to call her?" Tessa pushed her mug away like it suddenly tasted bad. "This is ridiculous. Grandma never said anything about, she didn't need to," I said. I reached into my bag and pulled out the voice recorder, setting it down right next to the plate of eggs Janet slid onto the table. I hit play. Grandma's voice filled the kitchen, gravelly, measured. "If you're hearing this, something's gone wrong." Roy stiffened. Tessa's face went pale. Janet turned slowly, spatula still in her hand. I didn't trust Roy. Janet looked the other way. "They're going to turn on you." The silence after it ended was sharp. Roy pushed his chair back fast, jaw clenched. "This doesn't prove anything," he snapped. "She was sick. She was confused. You probably—" I held up the amendment again. "She wasn't confused. She got it notarized, Roy. There's a timestamp, a witness signature, and 2 separate verification stamps. This is valid." Tessa stayed quiet. That pissed me off more than anything. Her silence, like she still thought she could get away with being a bystander. Janet finally spoke, soft and cutting. "You have no idea what you're doing. You think this is power, but all you're doing is making enemies." "I already had enemies," I said, standing. "You just didn't think I'd figure it out." I opened the side pouch of my bag and pulled out one more sheet of paper. I placed it carefully in the middle of the table. I filed for a temporary freeze on all trust and business activities. The court approved it last night. Nothing gets moved, nothing gets touched. Roy shot to his feet. "You went behind our backs?" "No," I said louder. "I went around you. Because you made it real clear what family means to you, none of them spoke. No more humming, no fake smiles, just 3 people sitting in their own mess." I walked out of that kitchen without grabbing breakfast, without looking back. I didn't even pause at the front desk. The garage floor was loud, air compressors whining, classic rock playing too loud from the back speaker, the clatter of sockets on concrete. Roy stood by the parts counter with 3 of the old guys, Earl, Stan, and Vic, reviewing a clipboard full of numbers. All of them looked up when I walked in. Not one of them said a word. The big white sign above the front door read, "Mays Motor Works, established, 1982. Grandma had painted the original logo herself. Tessa was already there, standing behind the front desk like it was hers. Clipboard in hand, fake busy with parts orders. She wore one of Grandma's old branded polos like it gave her some kind of authority. I walked straight to the middle of the shop, pulled the ownership documents from my bag, and slapped them down on the center workbench. "This is official," I said. Per Grandma May's amended will, filed, notarized, and verified, I now hold 51% ownership of this business. Roy blinked like he didn't hear me. "You're making a fool of yourself," he said. "Nobody's going to recognize that." "It's already recognized. The county clerk has a copy. The lawyer on file has it. And now so do all of you." I turned to the crew. "If you're working here, you deserve to know who's actually in charge." Earl looked at Roy. Roy didn't say a word. I reached back into my bag and started laying down printed reports. Here's what's been happening while you all were fixing cars and keeping this place running. The papers hit the bench one by one. Fake parts orders sent to a supplier that doesn't exist, registered under Tessa's LLC, inflated repair charges billed to community service clients. Side jobs run through the garage but paid under the table. Tessa stepped forward. You don't even know what those numbers mean? I do, I shot back, because I ran them through 2 accountants and a legal aid Grandma met with before she died. These aren't mistakes. They're patterns. Roy's face turned red. You little snake. You come in here waving paperwork around like you understand what it takes to run a place like this? I understand more than you think, I cut him off. I watched Grandma run this place with a clipboard in one hand and grease on her face. She never cheated a customer. She never ran shady deals. And she damn sure never cut corners just to line her pocket. Tessa crossed her arms. You're blowing this way out of proportion. I grabbed one more folder and opened it to the flagged transactions. How about 23 grand in equipment upgrades that never arrived? Or the 10,000 Roy wrote off as community BBQs that no one in town remembers attending? Roy slammed his fist on the bench. You don't talk to me like that in my shop. I didn't even flinch. It's not your shop. The whole place went quiet. I looked around. At the posters Grandma had hung, the old coffee maker she refused to replace, the framed picture of her with grease up to her elbows next to a smiling kid with a rebuilt alternator. This place wasn't just a business, I said steady. It was Grandma's name, and now it's mine to protect. I picked up the folders, tucked them under my arm, and walked straight through the side door, leaving them standing in the middle of the mess they made. I didn't even go home, just kept driving straight to City Hall. The town accountant, Lou Martinez, was waiting in his office. Old metal desk, file boxes stacked to the ceiling, fan spinning slow like it was too tired to care. Sitting across from him was Cheryl Banks, the legal aid Grandma used to bring peach cobbler to every 4th of July. She said you might show up, Cheryl said, sliding a file across the desk. She left instructions. Lou pushed his glasses up and opened the first folder. We've been collecting records. 6 years' worth. She wanted a backup plan if things got ugly. They got ugly, I said, dropping the reports from the garage onto the desk. Fast. Cheryl started lining up the statements while Lou pulled out a yellow legal pad and started scribbling totals. Here's where it starts, Lou said, pointing to a parts invoice from 4 years ago. This company, DriveTech Plus, doesn't exist. No phone number, no tax ID, no shipping records. Tessa registered it under her name and used a P.O. box as the address. She billed the shop from her own fake company? I asked. Cheryl nodded. Monthly, sometimes twice. Always just under 10,000, low enough to avoid red flags on the quarterly audits. Lou pulled another folder. Then there's the charity donations. You ever hear of Roy's neighborhood cookout fund? I raised an eyebrow. He used to talk about throwing a big community BBQ. Never saw it happen. Exactly, Lou said, flipping through transfers. $28,000 moved from the business account to a personal savings account labeled under that fund. Not a single receipt for food, permits, rental space. Nothing. Cheryl slid a final folder over. And then there's your mother. I stared at it. What about her? She opened a nonprofit education initiative. Community Skills Outreach. Supposed to be garage-led workshops, how to check oil, change a tire, basic auto care. Claimed she was working with the local high school and senior center. She never told me any of that, I said. That's because it never existed, Cheryl replied. We called both places. They've never heard of her program. I picked up the folder and flipped through the statements. 5,000 here, 3,000 there, monthly. That's Grandma's money, I muttered. She set up that trust to help real people. Fix real lives. Lou leaned back in his chair. Instead, it's been bled dry from the inside. I sat there for a second, staring at the numbers. All those years, they acted like they were doing me a favor, letting me hang around, letting me pitch in, all while robbing the place blind behind the scenes. Cheryl pushed a final envelope toward me. These are ready to file. Grandma had us prep them in case we ever needed to freeze the accounts and flag the trust I took it. What happens next? Lou looked at me. Next? We make it official. You bring it to court, you lay it all out, and you hold them accountable. Every penny? He nodded. Every last one. I stood up and slid the envelope into my bag. Then let's finish this. My phone buzzed as I stepped out of Lou's office. Janet, 1 hour, no lawyers. You owe us that much. I stared at the screen for a second. Not me, not your mother, not even her usual guilt-laced, we need to talk. Just business, just a command. I almost ignored it. But then I saw the second line. You owe us that much. The words didn't sting. They landed flat, like a card trick she'd done one too many times. I drove straight to the town park. There was only one place she'd mean. The bench under the willow tree, where Grandma used to read when she wanted space from the house, where she brought me on slow afternoons, book in her lap, hot cocoa in my hands. Janet was already sitting there, legs crossed, hands folded in her lap like she was posing for a damn brochure. Thanks for showing up, she said, calm, controlled, like always. I didn't sit. She glanced up at me. You're tearing this family apart. No, I said. I'm dragging it into the light. There's a difference. Her mouth tightened just a bit. There's a right way to handle things. Quietly, with grace. You don't burn down your own house just because the wiring's bad. Spoken like someone who's been lying under the walls for years, I shot back. This wasn't family. This was control. Grandma gave me the truth, and all you did was try to bury it. She tilted her head. She didn't tell you everything. You're not ready for what comes with that kind of power. I folded my arms. Maybe not. But I'd rather fail doing the right thing than succeed by stealing from a dead woman. Janet didn't blink. You think exposing all this will clean the slate? That people won't look at you sideways once this gets out? The moment you take it public, everything gets messy. Your hands won't stay clean, either. I looked past her at the willow leaves swaying just above the bench, the same spot where Grandma once told me, quiet isn't peace. It's just delay. I met Janet's eyes. Let it crumble then. Whatever was real will survive. The rest, it was already fake. She opened her mouth like she wanted to say something else, but didn't. I turned without another word. My boots crunched against the gravel as I walked away from the bench, the tree, and the woman who used to tell me she was doing it all for my own good. I didn't look back, not out of spite, not out of pride. Just done. The courthouse smelled like old paper and cheap coffee. It wasn't big, just one room with cracked vinyl floors, squeaky benches, and a county seal that looked like it hadn't been dusted since the 90s. But it was full. People from town, customers from the garage, 2 teachers from the high school. Even one of Grandma's old bridge friends sat in the back with her purse on her lap and her lips pressed tight. I took the stand and adjusted the mic. My palms were sweating, but my voice came out steady. My name is Claire Donnelly. I'm here to prove that fraud was committed against May's Motor Works and the May Donnelly Family Trust, both of which I now hold majority control of, per my grandmother's final, amended will. The judge, a no-nonsense woman named Harris, nodded for me to continue. I reached into the folder in front of me and started laying it out. Over the last 6 years, there have been forged invoices, false vendors, and personal expenses funneled through the business under fake labels. I've brought copies of all financial statements, with matching bank records, and confirmed timelines for each transfer. I held up one report. This is from DriveTech Plus, a fake company registered under my stepsister Tessa's LLC. It billed thousands in parts that were never delivered, because the business never existed. Those funds went directly into a private account. There was a quiet shift in the room, a whisper, a cough. But I didn't stop. I flipped to the next document. These payments here, labeled as Community BBQ Events, were created by Roy, my stepfather. There's no record of those events ever taking place. No permits, no receipts, no photos. Just withdrawn funds. The last folder hit the stack. And these, filed under Community Skills Outreach, were payments approved by Janet Donnelly, my mother. The organization was never real. No workshops, no classes. Just more money gone. I pulled out the voice recorder and set it on the table. And this is the voice of May Donnelly, my grandmother. The woman who built that shop from the ground up. I hit play. If you're hearing this, something's gone wrong. Her voice echoed through the courtroom, steady, direct. She named them. She warned me. She trusted me. When it ended, I picked up the handwritten note from the envelope and read it aloud. They'll turn on you. Take what's yours? I looked up. She wasn't paranoid. She was right. Judge Harris nodded slowly. Thank you. You may step down. I took my seat. Tessa was called next. She walked up in a crisp blouse and blazer like she was giving a job interview. No one looked at her. She cleared her throat. I didn't do anything malicious. Everything I did, any money I moved, was for the business. To keep it stable, to keep it in the family, Judge Harris leaned in. Were you listed in the will amendment? Tessa hesitated. No. Were you aware of its contents prior to this hearing? Tessa looked at me for a second. No. Then on what authority were you managing accounts and making financial decisions? She swallowed hard. We thought. I stood up. Permission to respond? The judge nodded. I faced the room. Protecting something doesn't mean erasing someone. That's not how you preserve a legacy. That's how you bury it. The courtroom stayed silent. No shuffling, no coughs this time. Judge Harris straightened in her chair. The court recognizes the legal validity of May Donnelly's will amendment, voice recording, and documentation. Claire Donnelly is hereby granted full control of both May's Motorworks and the Donnelly Family Trust, effective immediately. She turned to Roy, Janet, and Tessa. Further investigation into financial misconduct will proceed separately. You will be contacted. I didn't smile. I didn't gloat. I just nodded. Outside the courthouse, people were waiting. Some nodded. Some avoided eye contact. Didn't matter. I had the name. I had the truth. I had what Grandma gave me. The first thing I did was unlock the office door. The same damn key Grandma used to wear around her neck still fit the lock. The handle stuck for a second, then gave way with a groan like it hadn't been turned in months. Inside, it smelled like old receipts, oil, and dust. The kind of smell that lived in your clothes after just 5 minutes. I rolled up my sleeves. There were boxes stacked to the ceiling. Yellowed invoices, faded Polaroids, clipped coupons from hardware stores that didn't exist anymore. I found 3 photos of Grandma in the first drawer, one with Earl holding up a timing belt like it was a trophy, one where she was eating pie on a hood of a car, and one of her hugging a teen boy, caption on the back, First Scholarship Winner, 2009. By the end of the day, I had 6 trash bags full and a keep pile I wasn't ready to let go of. That weekend, I reopened the side door where Grandma used to hold her weekend classes, auto basics for everyone. The flyer I taped to the window said, free, oil change 101, tire pressure, basic safety checks, open to teens and seniors. Sponsored by May's Motorworks. By Saturday morning, 5 people showed up, 3 high school kids, 1 older man with thick glasses, and a woman in her 60s who said she'd taken Grandma's class 15 years ago. You keeping her vision going? She asked, tugging her gloves on. I nodded. Trying to. Good, she said. This town could use some of her again. After the second class, I filed the paperwork to create the May Donnelly Memorial Scholarship Fund. I used the recovered money, what hadn't already been flagged for the investigation. The first scholarship was small, just enough for tools or community college, but it was hers. Her name, her values. People started coming back to the shop too, not just for oil changes or breaks. They came with stories. One guy said, she taught me how to spot a bad alternator when I was 16. Saved me from getting ripped off in Dallas. A woman with 2 kids in tow told me, May let me pay for my muffler in installments back when I was broke. No paperwork. Just a handshake. The one that hit me hardest was Earl. He stopped by after hours, leaned against the doorway while I was closing the register. You brought May back into the place, he said. I didn't answer right away. Just looked down at the rag in my hand. I didn't cry. I thought I might, but it never came. All I felt was steady. Like maybe for the first time, I wasn't chasing something or trying to prove I belonged. I just did. I drove straight to the lake. No music, no calls. Just the sound of gravel crunching under my tires as I pulled up to the cabin. The front steps creaked like they always had. The old screen door groaned when I pushed it open, the way it used to every summer we visited. Inside, the air was still, a little musty but peaceful, like the place had been holding its breath. I dropped my bag by the door and walked over to the little table by the window. Her notebook was still there, soft leather cover, corners curled. The last time I'd opened it, I couldn't get past the first page. This time, I flipped it open without hesitating, right there in her handwriting. Sometimes blood must be drained for a body to heal. I let that sit for a second, then I picked it up and headed outside. The dock was weathered but still solid. I kicked off my boots and sat at the edge, notebook in one hand, my own journal in the other. The lake stretched out in front of me, calm, gray-blue, undisturbed. I didn't feel revenge. I didn't feel hate, just clear. They didn't just try to erase me, they cleared the space for me to rebuild it myself. I whispered it, not for drama, not for them, but for me. You tried to cut me out, but you gave me the key. I let the words drift, then closed the notebook, stood, and walked back up to the cabin. I locked the door behind me, not to shut anyone out, but to begin again.